What is up, guys? Welcome to a Coffee Mondays. Although this is coming out on a Tuesday. Well, it's actually Tuesday. So, but the reason that is because I wanted to wait just a day to see where things go, especially with regular season MVP. I think is going to be announced today. So we'll see if this video lines up. But this is also a podcast episode. So what we're going to try doing is actually integrating Coffee Mondays with the Soufam, where we're going to talk about some similar things anyway. Kind of streamlines the process, at least for this one, just for this episode only, because as I mentioned, once MPL season is over for MPL Philippines, the Soufam, the podcast, is going to take a different direction. So yeah, but we'll still have Coffee Mondays on the YouTube channel and whatnot. Anyway, if you're just listening to this on the podcast, you haven't seen the YouTube page, if you just type Naisou on YouTube, you'll find the channel. And of course, quick plug, we have another podcast now, the second one, which is just called Storytime with Naisou. And that one, we're just focusing on reading stories. Yeah, reading stories. So, and actually the first episode did really well. I think it's almost at 50 downloads, which is even bigger than the first episode of the Soufam. So or on par, I should say. It's probably on par for that first week of the Soufam. So we'll see how that plays out. Just another project I wanted to get going, but that is it for now. Enjoy the episode. Let's get to it. So, first on the list of just happenings for this Coffee Monday, I mean, number one, like I mentioned, MVP regular season, right? MVP regular season, there has been, I mean, a lot of talk about who the MVPs could be, right? My vote, I had my vote specifically, and we did vote, by the way. Us casters did vote. I went ahead and voted for OhMyV33nus, right? Number one was OhMyV33nus. We actually got to choose three, and then it was like a point basis type thing. OhMyV33nus was my number one, and I don't know again on who all voted, how much weight is where, and everything else. But I know that, yes, the casters do get a say for regular season MVP. And for me personally, it should be 100% OhMyV33nus, right? And that's just based off not only the whole season, the way things fell into place for Blacks International, where they ended up finishing on the top, but if you just look at their gameplay, I mean, anybody that's watched a Blacks International game can see the power, the strength of the shot calling capabilities from OhMyV33nus, right? Her shot calling is just, it's a different level. And I think it's an integral part of why Blacklist International is so successful in their gameplay and the way they turn things around, right? So amazing thing there. And who knows, again, I think they're going to announce it today. By the time this podcast is up, this episode is up, who knows, right? But that is my vote. So I don't know who your guys' votes were, but I know there was a couple players, maybe two or three, that were really the voices of the audience, the people, the team thought is deserving of regular season MVP. So again, my vote, I'm just going to leave it there, was OhMyV33nus, and we'll see what happens later on in today, because I believe they're announcing it later, maybe this afternoon or maybe soon, by the time this comes up, right? Now, moving on, MPL Singapore, right? So MPL Singapore just concluded a couple days ago. What is today? Tuesday? Yeah, it concluded on Sunday. I watched their whole playoffs, and it was great. I mean, honestly, their grand final was great. It went 7 games. It was a best of 7. It went 7 games. It was between RSG. I was about to say RSG Philippines, RSG Singapore, and Slate. And Slate is basically it's like Evo Singapore, but with a different team name, right? So this has been RSG Singapore and technically Evo Singapore have been battling it out in grand finals for a long time. And this is their season 4. And I think their region is I don't know. It's weird because it feels like there is just two top dogs for the most part. I mean, there's some teams and some players there that, you know, have promise and everything else, but I just feel like MPL Singapore is in a little bit of a weird state. Now, that is also just attributed to the fact that it's new. Like, they're new, right? They're in their fourth season. And everything that's going on with them is similar to a pace of, for example, MPL Philippines, MPL Indonesia. The way that things went in their first seasons is very similar to what's going on in MPL Singapore. And, you know, I think it's just going to continue to grow for them. They also did have a playoff venue. I'm not sure 100%, but I think it was in a mall. And, you know, again, MPL Philippines competitions used to be in malls, right? The finals, the playoffs and whatnot. So it's an interesting region to watch, also because I am just an overall RSG fan. So RSG Philippines did win. So they will be representing Singapore at M4, right? They're going to represent Singapore there. And so, you know, who knows? Who knows if RSG Philippines doesn't get to be one of the teams to represent Philippines in M4, then at least I could cheer for RSG Singapore. So yeah, they're the representatives. I think it's going to be really interesting to see them play in M4 because, you know, MPL Singapore, like I said, it's a weird territory to really judge like skill levels of the teams, just because I feel like so much focus has been on RSG Singapore and Evo Singapore, right? But moving toward that too, I do want to say that I think Slate kind of threw the game when they picked the Cyclops. They picked Cyclops mid, Cyclops mid, and it did not perform well at all, right? So they're probably going to regret that, if not already. And yeah, RSG Singapore ends up winning the game 7, right? Now, moving on here with the topics, NACT. Let's talk about a little bit about NACT. Man, NACT has been a pleasure. It's been a joy to watch just for the past couple of weeks, the way that NACT has grown, you know, and they don't even have an MPL, right? And it's just the way that now they have an actual production team. And of course, they've had their own hiccups along the way. Again, I think any production is always going to have bumpy roads and roadblocks in their way, right? But, you know, just to see NACT, the NAC, and you guys know how long I have been like advocating and cheering for an MLBB scene in NA, right? It's something that I have personally wanted to see happen for years. And to see NACT get to the point where it is now, again, this is on the backs of T-Rex. Dave even started things before, but I gotta say, you know, T-Rex especially doing the whole NASL thing, and then him getting, you know, G the Ico and Private Dancer, and, you know, the rest of the casters, Steph Weezy, you know, and all of them that have been involved throughout the seasons from NASL to NACT. You know, it's been amazing to see the growth that it's had. Not only that, but also in terms of teams, players that are interested in joining this. I think they, you know, I can't remember off the top of my head how many teams were interested in the qualifiers, but they had a huge response to the point, you know, now where next week we have, or this weekend we have the semifinals, which, hey, I'll be casting, by the way. So if you guys haven't been watching any NACT, I will be casting both. I'll be casting on the 15th and the 16th of October. That is I believe, yeah, I'll be casting Saturday, Sunday. And that is going to be great matches. Now, of course, if you guys haven't been following, there's a team there with a lot of Filipinos on it. Actually, there's multiple teams that have Filipinos on it. You know, even Ureshi from NXPE last season was on one of the teams. Unfortunately, you know, they got beat, I believe. So, you know, that's the thing, though. There's a lot of Filipinos. There's a lot of Filipino pride still in NACT. There's also teams that are, you know, not full of Filipinos or don't have Filipinos on them. Again, this is one thing that, it just makes me happy to see, is a developing region like NACT growing the way that it is. And whatever ends up happening for the final, the grand final is going to be in Las Vegas, man. Like that is so cool, right? The fact that they're going to have their grand final in Las Vegas. Seating capacity, I think their seating capacity is probably going to be very similar to our season 9 playoffs, where it was about 150 capacity. And I would have loved to be in the US for that, right? I could have, but again, my schedule doesn't line up with it. And maybe next year, right? Maybe next year I'll get a chance to go to witness or be a part of some NA MLBB action. But that's something I cannot wait to watch, because I know some of the casters, G the Ico, I think he got like a new camera or something. He's planning to vlog it. He's planning to, make content, post up and everything, because I believe him, Trex, T-Rex, I always say Trex, him, T-Rex, and Private Dancer will probably be rooming together. Who knows, right? But they're going to be there together, along with Dave and everybody else. And I just want to see how is their in-person tournament? How is their in-person thing? I'm sure there's going to be hiccups again. Like there's going to be hiccups along the way. It's like one of the first MLBB in-person big-ish tournaments, right? Over there. Although the Stars production, I think it's eStars production, is handling them. They have handled previous tournaments before for other game titles, right? So it should go well, but again, it's just, it makes me happy. It makes me happy, genuinely happy to see this region growing. And, again, big props and respects to the people that made this happen, to the people that put some attention there, because I got to say, man, there is amazing talent in the NA region. And the other thing you have to consider, if you guys are, listening to this from the Philippines, dude, they play on like a weird ping, because they don't have I don't think they have a dedicated server like we do, where we can play on, single digit ping most of the time, and some of these guys that are in different parts of North America, or maybe they're not technically in NA, but they're still playing on an NA team or NA servers. Their ping isn't great, and you guys know how hard it is to play in ping. So imagine doing for example, an M4 qualifier on shitty ping, right? It's pretty tough. So, and not only the talent of the players, but a talent even with the casters. And I am hoping that we get to see at least one NA caster come to M4. Hell, I hope I'm going, but I hope that regardless of that, we get to see one NA caster in M4, because I think they deserve it, and it would be a great representation of that region, and who knows what they have planned in the future for them, right? So hopefully that happens. Mutan, I don't know if you're listening, but we'd love to see it, right? And so catch me casting NACT semifinals this weekend, 15 and 16, right? Now remember too, that is NA time, so I'll make a post on my socials and Twitter when I'll be casting semifinals, so that I can convert it to Philippine time. So moving on though, this topic round out the episode is MPL Philippine Playoffs, right? Which is happening next week. That starts on October 20th, but specifically the ticketing, right? Because I've even had people message me about ticketing, man. Now for the ticketing, it was kind of, I kind of expected the way that things happen with ticketing. I expected it, honestly. Just because, what is the average viewership of, MPL Philippines? Probably hundreds of thousands, right? I think it's let's just say it's 200,000, and then you're going to have the biggest season. It's season 10. It's going to be in a venue that isn't as big as people expect or want. And again, there's reasons for that. And I don't think, the angry mob online maybe they don't understand that. As much as I think the, Grindsky, the production team, wants to have a big venue, it's tough right now. Again, this is the Burr months, and to get some of those big venues, it's very competitive. It's very expensive. It's very hard. And again, you're working with a certain budget that you have, right? Not only that, but it's also overseen by GAB, the official government office here that, sets these rules, sets these limitations, and everything else. And again, I think people don't realize that, even season 9, yeah, we had SMX, but it was capped out at like 150 people. So at least this season, for season 10, it might not be SMX, it might not be SM Arena, which people were hoping for, but it's at least a venue that can accommodate 1,000 people. It's 10 times, about 10 times more, 8 to 10 times more than what we had in season 9. Again, that is amazing. Honestly, from a caster perspective, to have 1,000 people is going to be amazing, right? Because we said the same thing last season when we were at SMX. We're like, damn, having 100 people in here, 150. I think for the grand finals, it was probably like 200 because some people were standing, But you have to be within the limitations because again, Gab is there, and they honestly, if Gab is not happy, we might not be able to do this stuff for MPL Philippines, right? So I know there's a lot of people that are like, damn, man, I wish there was a bigger venue for the playoffs. I mean, I'm sure everybody does, but again, COVID is still a thing. It's, it's not gone, as much as people like to think in their heads. Like some people just think, well, I know you COVID, it's gone. I don't have to worry about it. Well, it's not. And if you have a huge amount of people and let's say, someone's sick there and you guys know all about Corona and everything else, right? So it could just be a bad scenario in that case, right? Again, controlling 1,000 people is still going to be tough, honestly. And you got to remember too, that even during the regular season, everybody that came to the venue, even though that venue only held like 150 people or so, everybody had to get tested. So imagine testing 1,000 people. Imagine testing even more than that, right? If it was a bigger venue, 10,000 people, you had to test 10,000 people every playoff day. That's a lot. That's expensive, right? That's budgeting and time management and, making sure that there's not delays. Again, there's a lot of limitations and guidelines that have to be followed. And, hopefully maybe the next season when the restrictions lift a little bit more, the world, the pandemic is a little bit, I don't want to say, because I think we're just going to be living with the pandemic. Like we're just going to be living with coronavirus for the rest of our lives, honestly. Maybe things will be different next season is all I'm trying to say. Now, the website too, I know was frustrating to use for a lot of people because I had people message me about it and, they said it sold out in like 5 minutes. And then they found out like, there was a problem with the website. They refreshed it. They were able to buy tickets later. Like that whole thing, I completely understand the frustration there. I don't know anything about that because again, it's just up to the ticketing partner. Nothing that we can really control or the production people can control. And, I think maybe the ticketing website didn't expect such a rush of traffic, right? Again, that's why having a proper setup for, your online transactions and your websites and everything to accommodate that much traffic is very important. But at the same time, then again, how many thousands of people were probably trying to use that website, trying to get tickets, right? Hopefully it wasn't scalpers, right? But I think MPL Philippines has also released a statement about scalping and, their whole thought process on that and how they would handle that. So, unfortunately, if you guys didn't get tickets, it sucks. I'm sorry. Honestly, wish everybody could come watch, but obviously that can't happen, especially again with the limitations and the guidelines that have to be followed. So if you didn't get a ticket, all I can say is, enjoy the show, man, from home, the comfort of your home. At least you don't have to commute in traffic. You don't have to drive. You know what I mean? You don't have to deal with those things. You can just pop your popcorn, get your chichiri, your snacks or whatever, and just watch from home, right? That's the upside. And at least too, if there happens to be any technical issues, hopefully there's not, you can chill at home, right? So again, hopefully in the future, more people can be accommodated. But for now, that's just the way things are. And hopefully you guys understand listening to this if you didn't get a ticket. And, you know, I'm also really looking forward to meeting some of the people that did get tickets that are also in the Soufam and just a part of the community and everything. I can't wait to meet you guys. So, you know, again, let's just hope for the future, I guess, to accommodate more of the MPL fans, because man, the fan base is huge. It's wild. It's electric. And it's amazing, right? And I will be vlogging, of course, the playoffs. I haven't vlogged at all in the regular season just because I didn't really want to. But for the playoffs, this is something else. So I'll be vlogging that to share that with you guys as well. And that's going to wrap this episode up. Again, thank you guys so much. If you're listening to this on the podcast, please go ahead and review or rate the podcast wherever that is. Helps me continue to grow. Super simple. And other than that, if you're watching the video, because this is going to be for Coffee Mondays, please do give it a like. Also, I'll be streaming exclusively on YouTube now. So for the people watching this, you probably maybe you caught the stream a couple days ago. I mentioned that as well. I don't like what Facebook has done to their new page experience and everything else. It's a hassle to use. So I've just decided I'm going to be streaming 100% on YouTube, probably 2 to 3 times a week, especially after the MPL season is over, and we'll get things set up there. There is a membership as well that you can join to support the channel, which you can find just by clicking, join. I'll put the link in the description as well. But again, thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your days. Thank you for listening. Until next week, GG, WP.